Welcome back to the Stay Hype podcast, where I help you heighten your personal experience through my own experience on this earth. I'm your host, Kristen, and I am so glad to finally be back sitting here recording an episode for you guys. I think it's been over 2 months since I have felt inspired to really sit down and talk about the things that I have been going through and learning. You guys know I am teaching by my own experiences. And so, wow, I have had to really slow down and have a seat. I was very much humbled by my emotions these last 3 months, and I'm really excited to just get into it with you guys and let you know what I have learned, because I can feel it energetically and collectively that a lot of us have been kind of hit the wall. We have hit a wall emotionally to where we cannot run from these uncomfortable emotions anymore. We have to actually feel it in order to release it. We are starting to recognize that it's not enough for us to just know that the things that happened to us weren't our fault. It's not enough for us to just know that we have some shame that we're carrying, but we know it's not our shame to carry. We have to actually feel it so that we can move through it and heal it. And I think that so many of us have felt, speaking for myself and probably for many of you, we have felt a lot of emotions, way more emotions than we've ever felt in our entire lives these last 4 years, at least 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, wherever you're at in your journey. And it's like we have felt so many things and we've gotten through it and it's been hard. But recently, we have been asked to go super deep, much deeper. We are recognizing that we have always been our own blocks. And though we have pushed through a lot and we have stepped in, a lot of us, if you're resonating with this, if you found this episode, you're ready for more. You're ready to go deeper, and you're understanding now, as your consciousness continues to expand, that the lower the lows that you allow yourself to feel and face and understand and recreate the truth instead of this limited, belief and lie that a lot of these low vibrational feelings are actually tied to. So once you face it so that you can go into it and transmute it and not be defined by it anymore, then you allow yourself to feel these high highs. And that has been the stage that I've been in. And so we all know that we're ready to go higher. We're ready to really dream bigger, and not just dream, but start to make these dreams a reality. And we're recognizing that it's asking us to go so much deeper into ourselves to figure out the blocks. Why am I in the freeze response? Why am I procrastinating? Why can't I just get started on this? Why am I not making the time to make a plan on how to leave my 9 to 5 so that I can actually start doing things that are fulfilling to me? When do I actually start taking action when it comes to embodying the person that I know that I am, now that I have really combed through these shadows and I see these parts of me that have needed to be loved? Bringing them to the surface and knowing that the only way for us to be truly confident is for us to make friends with our insecurities, to be confidently insecure. That's what I feel. If we can be confidently insecure, and what I mean by that is to be able to go into relationships, just being honest. Going into relationships, being honest about where we're at, how we feel, the boundaries, speaking our truth, the things that bother us, and not feeling stupid for having things that make us feel insecure or that bother us, or having non-negotiables that may be different than other people. Like recognizing that we are our own person, and the reason why we have these insecurities is 9 times out of 10 coming from some source of pain or trauma. And like learning to have compassion for these shadow aspects of ourselves, like shame and anger and control and fear, dependency, avoidance, right? All these things that we're starting to see within ourselves that are showing, the full picture on why we're not really where we want to be. And not because we're not capable and not because we're just lazy. It's because we are hurting. And for the first time, so many of us have been invited to sit still and have been given opportunities to sit still and do nothing and just feel. And that is something that we've been running from our entire lives. But it's something that we've been deeply craving. And then when you're confronted with it, it's like, whoa, I can either continue running and go back to these old coping mechanisms that you know are not even working anymore the more that you expand. But I can go back to these old ways of coping, or I can finally break this cycle and I can do what those before me didn't have the ability to do, didn't have the awareness to do, literally couldn't do it because of, their safety. And that's to feel. And recognizing that it's an honor to be able to feel your feelings. It's an honor to be able to feel your feelings. And this is something that we need in order to get to this next chapter. And we know it. You can't drink it away. You can't smoke it away. You can't have empty sex anymore. Nothing is giving you that dopamine. Nothing is giving you that hit of validation. And if it does, it's lasting a shorter and shorter periods of time. Because you're tired of seeking external validation and you want to start validating yourself and your own experiences and stop leaving it up to people outside of you to let you know that they approve of your decisions or that you're good enough or that you're smart enough. And seeing that within yourself, it's so liberating to not need someone to make you feel good enough. And this is where a lot of us have gotten to, where we said, okay, I'm tired of running. What is it that I feel so insecure about? What is it that is causing so much doubt? What is it that's keeping me stuck? And for me, it's been my shame. I had no idea how much shame I was carrying around my sexual trauma. And, I started creating this particular series, No More Suffering in Silence, because I knew that I needed to start pushing myself to really face this, because I could tell that I would talk about my sexual trauma with just such a matter of fact, how I'm talking right now, and I'm actually kind of getting a little emotional, which I'm excited about because I've been so numb when it comes to this. But I would just talk about my experiences, just so matter of fact, yep, this happened. And I realized how much I was still dissociating, from the feelings. So for the longest time, I dissociated from the entire event as a whole. And then in 2021, I finally, stopped dissociating from the fact that these things actually happened. And I accepted that, yes, I was a victim of rape, sexual assault. And then I kind of just put it up on the shelf for these last 3 years because I'm like, okay, I've looked at it and let me just go ahead and put it up there on the shelf. But then, and that was perfect because I had other things. I had so many other things that I needed to comb through outside of the biggest core wound, which is my sexual trauma. Had to go through all the stuff. And so once I've gone through all the stuff and I'm teaching, I'm recognizing like, ooh, I'm feeling a little burnt out. I feel like there's something that I'm like not giving myself chance to really see. And I was working and recognizing how much we cope with work, how much of us throw ourselves into work, even if it's work that we hate, because we're running from our potential and we're running from the pain and we're running from the truth that we're not happy and all these different things. And so I had to take a seat and I had to finally start looking at my sexual trauma from the standpoint of being a victim. And I know we talk so much about I'm not the victim anymore, I'm a survivor, we can't be in victim mode. But I do believe, me personally, from my experiences, there is a moment in our journey where we need to acknowledge that we are the victim, because so many of us have dissociated and lied to ourselves over the years to protect us that we don't even recognize the horror or the terror, the trauma that we've actually been through. We don't even acknowledge it. And so I think that it is a very important and initial step in healing and integrating these shadows is first by acknowledging that, yes, I was a victim, and really looking at myself as the observer through the observer lens, And how many of us really need to do that in order to connect to ourselves emotionally? We need to start seeing ourselves as these human little beautiful children that have been through, some of us, some really heavy, dark stuff that warrants the behavior. You see, once we go into these depths and these feelings and we start to understand it and we do less criticizing and we approach it with more love and just curiosity, why do I behave this way? Why do I have a fear of intimacy? Why do I dissociate every time it's time to have sex? Once we can go into those spaces, then we can start to have understanding for our behavior. And then once we can have understanding, then we can have more compassion. And compassion is what we need in order to integrate these shadows. I have my 5A method, that you guys have probably heard me talk about on here before, but I'll say it again. But the 5 A's of integrating and healing, integrating your shadow. I don't even like using the word healing your shadows because they're always within us. We just learn how to integrate them and love them, and we have more tools on how to respond versus react. So the 5 A's is, first and foremost, awareness. Awareness. You cannot integrate a shadow that you are not aware of. So we have to be open to the awareness, and the awareness can come in forms of other people making us aware of our behavior. It can come from journaling. It can come from, for me, verbal processing brings a lot of things to my awareness when I'm speaking to my audience. A lot of things I'm really saying to myself, and I'm like, oh dang, that's not just for them. This is for me too. So speaking is a way, listening, going to therapy. There's a lot of things that you can do to start deepening your awareness right? So we have to be aware. The second A is acknowledgement. We have to acknowledge that there was some behavior, that is associated from this trauma, from the awareness of what happened, that we did develop some behavioral changes. So we have to acknowledge that there is some behavior that we may not be so proud of. And then acceptance. We have to accept the root of this trauma. We have to accept it. And that's where a lot of us have not wanted to really accept the truth that if having a typical childhood means traumatic and abusive, then I guess, yes, a lot of us did have a typical childhood. And then the fourth one, accountability. This is one that is so painful. Accountability, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable for how this behavior, whether it was subconscious or not, impacted others in a negative way. We have to stop getting so defensive. We have to start hearing people. We have to stop gaslighting. We have to stop, being the parent that we didn't like growing up when it comes to our parents refusing to hold themselves accountable. We have to break that cycle by holding ourselves accountable. And then the last and most important step is action. We have to take action to start embodying this new version of us instead of doing the same disempowering steps, So we have to actually take action and have these uncomfortable conversations. We have to take action and actually look at ourselves and feel. We have to take action and stay still, right? We have to take action and lay down for a week and just allow our body to process and release and cry. We have to take action by starting to admit that what we're doing right now is not sustainable. Being vulnerable with ourselves, So those are some steps that I have just taken note with my own journey that have really helped me integrate these shadows. And shame has been a huge one that I had no idea ran so deep. And through sitting with it and giving myself these last 5 weeks to kind of just be MIA from the world and just go completely inward and just feel all the things, I recognized that my shame came from conditioning from my abuser, the grooming, making me feel like I was consenting in the rape. And so that's where my shame came from. And so I thought because it was my mom's boyfriend that I cheated. I did this to my mom. I did this. I willingly did this, even though because I wasn't aware that I was being manipulated at that time. And so I carried this shame, and because I carried this shame and I was punishing myself, I said, I deserve to punish myself. So the way that I'm going to punish myself for doing this is I'm going to turn off all the pleasure. I no longer deserve pleasure, particularly pleasure from penetration. because my body responded during the rape, because I responded in a positive way, because I felt like I wanted it and it felt good because my body responded, even though I was dissociated during the rape. I don't deserve to feel pleasure anymore. I do not deserve to feel pleasure anymore. So I am turning this part of me off, and yeah, that's it. I don't deserve it. And so from that point forward, from 13 years old or however old I was when that happened, I have subconsciously told myself no. And so whenever I got older and started having more consensual, sexual experiences, I didn't like it because it didn't feel like anything. And I was so unaware of how much I would just dissociate. And I thought it was normal to just be thinking about the grocery store while you're being intimate. I thought it was normal to be thinking about a list of things that you have to get done while you're having sex. I didn't know that it was a survival tactic. And so, sitting with my shame instead of running from it has taught me so much, and it has freed me and liberated me in ways that I didn't know that I needed liberating. And it has put me in positions, and I've called people into my life that have allowed me to to prove to myself how much healing I've really done, and that I do have a voice, especially when it comes to my sexual experiences. I recognize through this time is that I people please the most when it comes to relationships, but particularly when it comes to sex and relationships. That is where I people please the most. So, I have been, really blessed that I have had some manifestations being answered in my life recently where I've been put in the position to be able to use my voice. And I have, and it's been really empowering and liberating, and it wouldn't have come if I wouldn't have sat with it. I wouldn't have had these opportunities if I wasn't ready to really face it, because sex is really triggering for me. Intimacy is extremely triggering for me, and pushing through the triggers and staying present in the triggers and not dissociating and not leaving my body and speaking my truth in moments where I normally would want to where I normally would disappear, not being performative and really being real about my experience, and just not abandoning myself when it comes to intimate moments has been such a liberating and healing experience. And I am so proud of myself, and it has really shown me that I can do this. I can show up as this partner, and I can have empowering sexual experiences, and I do matter, and my pleasure does matter, and this is not my fault, and the shame is not mine to carry. Oh man, I don't know if y'all can feel my energy and excitement through through however you're listening to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, whatever, I know you can feel me, because I feel it like a new me. I feel so liberated, and so I'm so excited that I finally felt ready and inspired to record this episode, because I just want you to know what's on the other side of these low, scary feelings that I know that you're very scared to feel is so much liberation and happiness. And we have to stop capping ourselves out from feeling the high highs because we are so scared to feel the low lows. You will get through it. You are the light at the end of the tunnel. You are the light at the end of the tunnel, and you have to feel it so that you can get out of this loop that you've been in your entire life, telling these same stories that are not true. You are enough. You are not a bad person because you may have done some things that you're not proud of. You deserve forgiveness. You deserve compassion and grace. And the behavior and how you're showing up is not inherently who you are. It is a symptom of some needs that were not met in your childhood. And you deserve to finally feel happiness and freedom in your life. And the only person that can set you free is you. You have to be brave enough to sit still and listen. Oh my gosh. Woo! All right, guys, I could just keep going, but I feel like this episode's going to get way too long, and I like to keep them nice and digestible. But I am coming at you with a new energy. I feel so good, and I'm going to keep sharing. So get ready for some more consistent episodes, and make sure that you are following me on TikTok and Instagram. All that is in my About Me. I am open for coaching, so make sure if you are wanting someone to help you identify your shadows and take you through that 5A method, and if you need someone to bring you into awareness, I got you. All that information will be in the description on how to book a coaching call with me or a reading. I'm also opening my readings back up, which I'm so excited about. I'm back, okay? All right, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you later. Bye.